see horizon, and then it tips over and you see ground, and you realize you're going straight to the ground.
Yeah.
And then one button, it would activate the pneumatic cylinder, the ratchet, to pull the stunt guy out. It would ignite 4 simulated rocket thrusters on the bottom of his seat, which were the ejection boosters. He would fly out. He'd get about, I'd say 60, maybe about 100 feet from the LLTV. And then right when he swings on his pendulum from the crane, right when the ground comes into action, we set off a giant explosion on the ground. So as soon as he leaves the cockpit, you no longer see the LLTV.
I see, yeah.
And it's out of frame. And then right when it comes back into frame, when he swings, is when it would have hit the ground.
I see.
And that's when we ignited the giant explosion.
So it was all smoke and gerbs and stuff flying everywhere. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, fantastic.
And that was all one take. one gag. And it's one of the ones that I carry on my phone.
Yeah.
To show people, because people are like, well, how did you do that? And it's a little blip of it. You see him ejecting out with in the trailer.
Right.
But yeah, so then he hits the ground. He gets drug across the ground. He gets beat up real bad. And then he gets up and he looks back at the LLTV, and the thing was, ran on hydrogen peroxide and liquid oxygen and all this other stuff. So it made a horrendous fire.
Yeah, right.
And we recreated that with bits and pieces of, we made a burnable LLTV, a big heap.
Okay, right.
And we burned that kind of like we did on Fast and Furious with big 1,000-gallon liquid gasoline tanks, pressurized, 2-inch hoses, and then giant brass nozzles. We pumped about 1,000 gallons a minute of gasoline into the fire.
Okay. Who's the stunt coordinator?
His name was Jim Churchman.
Great, all right. Must get that in there. Right, great. All right. Right. Let's get to the moon. What did you do for zero gravity in the capsule? I know you didn't jump up on the vomit comet.
Nope.
But Paul's told me that there was some fairly low-tech things with basically like them standing on one leg and pretending to float, but also they said that there were rigs, and I'm not sure what they were, or if you were doing that, or if Jim Churchill's team were doing it, or...
Jim Churchman did most of the rigs for the people.
Right.
And then we did all the rigs for everything else inside the plane.
Okay.
Or the rocket. So we had, it was a combination of everything that's been done and then some. So we had monofilament, we had nichrome wires, we had all types of invisible wires, hanging, a pencil, a freaking pencil or pen would have, 6 different wires on it, hanging it from different angles so you can move it around the cab on a little linear track, you know what I mean?
Okay, but where do you hide that? Does it go through the capsule, or do you just hang it there and Paul Lambert's going to take it out, the rig?
A lot of it we didn't want to do any rig removal. Yeah. So we hung it with, almost impossible little wires that are... once you break it, you have to go back to the trailer to fix it. They're so small, you need a massive magnifying glass.
Right.
It's some type of optical fiber.
Okay. Did it come in just from the top of frame, or did you take it out through the set?
Took it out through the set. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So we'd cut little holes in the spacecrafts and run the wires out through the little holes. And if you were able to get it from 3 points, you could kind of float it around anywhere you wanted inside the cabin. With 3 little holes.
Very clever. All right. And what about other space-bound atmospherics? Did you do like gravity gags so that things wouldn't float?
Yeah, we did some stuff with, like helium balloons, and we did some things where we hung devices from helium to simulate. The helium would take up the weight of it, so it would be neutrally buoyant in the atmosphere. We made some. I think we made one of the bigger items. We made a square-shaped helium balloon that floated. What else did we do?
Did you do stuff with the miniatures, like little puffs and puffs of?
Oh yeah. everything you see with the miniatures floating around in outer space, and the undocking and the docking and all that stuff. That was all those little nitrogen gags and the little dust elements and the stuff falling away. That's all practical stuff we did on stage in front of a black screen.
Right. Okay.
Tinfoil bits flopping around in outer space. We inverted the cameras to the various angles and then just let them fall with gravity.
Right. Okay. Right. Now the Eagle. What was that like for simulating the whole piloting system of that? That
was one of the more intense days, where Damien and the NASA guy are reading off exactly what happened into Ryan's helmet.
Yeah.
And then we had a pre-recorded move on top of the motion base of what the Eagle did, and we were controlling the LED wall with the moon coming in and all that stuff that day. That was definitely one of the more difficult ones. Everybody was kind of sweating it.
Yeah.
Because Damien he was not taking anything. He wanted it perfect. And
it gets pretty violent, doesn't it? From what I read about it in the book.
I read the book as well, and it did make it sound like it was violent. It was very nerve-wracking.
Okay, right.
But the actual descent, the spacecraft was so fragile that it really couldn't get bumped around hard.
I see. Okay.
But it wasn't a soft landing, so to speak. But it didn't. There was no big shake. There was no big crash. There was no big anything. The suspense was, they missed their landing mark.
Right.
By a couple thousand yards or something like that, and they were running out of fuel, and they didn't know where they were going to land.
Okay.
And Neil Armstrong just got into this intense zone and was not listening to anybody.
Yeah.
And
I can't wait to see that. The moon itself, I know they shot that in a quarry, but that puts a lot of onus on the set dressing, and I imagine on you, on how to make that moon dust work.
Yeah, it was cool. So
how'd you do that?
We hooked up with Snow Business, and they gave us a bunch of their products that they thought would be adequate. We got them all here. We mixed a bunch of them together. We tested. We finally came up with a moon dust that we liked. There was a couple different varieties. There was one for the feet print, for when Neil steps onto the Earth, or onto the moon, the lunar surface. That would make a perfect little indent, just what we're all so familiar seeing.
Yeah.
It's a combination of ground up paper and talc and gypsum and things like that.
All right. Okay.
And it's actually a lot blacker than I even knew. I didn't realize the surface of the moon is not white. It's actually like dark gray.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. The zero gravity effects, was that Churchman?
So on the moon, what we did was on the moon, I think it's like 1/6 gravity. One third, maybe. Yeah. So what we did is, a 100-pound man. We'd preload, or a 200-pound man, we'd preload 150 pounds with extremely long bungee cords.
Oh, right.
Okay, and then you could get these guys, 200-pound stuntman could essentially just hop around like he only weighed 50 pounds. And I mean, I got to tell you, the first time we tested it on the stage, it was just like, oh wow, maybe they did fake the moon landing.
Don't say that.
Because it looked identical.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So that's how we did the moon gravity. We big crane up above.
Yeah.
And a slack line, and then a lot of bungee cord.
Right. Okay. Did you quote unquote fly the flag? When he puts the flag up and it has that weird, it kind of just sort of hangs there in that weird gravity.
Well, we did do that, but it has there's a rod on the top of it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So our flag was stiffer because we didn't want it flapping.
Right. Okay.
And so it was made. It had like armature wire in it.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
But it had, it has the vertical flagpole.
Yeah.
And then it has one across the top.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So that's how we were able to get it.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And I heard from Paul. It sounds like a very touching thing where Neil gets up to some business with a little bracelet. Can you tell me what you did with that?
That was done with the helium. So we needed Neil goes to the edge of the crater. He gets, I think each astronaut got like 2 minutes or something to goof off on the moon.
Wow.
And he takes his time and walks over to the edge of this crater